Her 9000's Game Room.
Okay, so the game I'm going to be talking about today is called Hiryu no Ken S Golden Fighter, if I'm pronouncing that right, and it's the first game in a series of games often referred to as either the Hiryu no Ken or Flying Dragon series, to be released on the Super Nintendo. I guess you probably imagine that given the fact this game is on the Super Nintendo, that the S stands for Super. Well, actually, I'll put you out of your misery with a little bit of trivia here and tell you that the S in the title actually stands for Special. The Flying Dragon series started in 1985 with an arcade fighting game called Shanghai Kid. When I say fighting game, this might put images of Street Fighter 2 into your head, but this game actually predated the original Street Fighter by around 2 years. Flying Dragon Secret of the Scroll is the sequel to this arcade game, and it was on the NES. The NES game was less of a one-on-one fighter and more of a sort of walk-along fighting platformer. After the first NES game, there were about 4 more NES games and then a Game Boy game, which was a one-on-one fighter again. And then this, which as I said earlier is the first game from the series on the SNES. So basically this is the first SNES game in a massive series, a series which most likely hardly anyone in my home country of the UK has ever heard of. After all, this game never came out here, and the only one of the series up to this point which made it over here was the Game Boy game, which was called Fighting Simulator 2-in-1 Flying Warriors, which is a heck of a mouthful. And in all honesty, I had never even heard of it until doing research for this review. Up until I played this SNES game, my only experience of this series was playing the N64 game. Okay, so the game I'm reviewing didn't make it over here. It did make it out in America 2 years later with the name Ultimate Fighter. Okay, so that's enough of a history lesson. Let's get on to talking about the actual game itself. So I guess the first question to answer is, what kind of game is it? Given the fact that the series seems to have swapped its playstyle around from game to game, it leaves you wondering what type of game this one will be. Well, as you can see in the video, I think it's probably best described as a walk-along beat-em-up. Unlike games like Final Fight or Streets of Rage, you can only move forwards and backwards, you can't move up and down. So it's a walk-along beat-em-up which is on a fixed level, much like a one-on-one fighter, like the aforementioned Street Fighter for example. This in itself is a little bit strange, you can't really avoid enemies and they can't try to flank you like they would in other games. They'll be coming at you either from the left or right, and that's it. Okay. This is not the only game to work like this. In fact, if you're a Mega Drive / Genesis gamer and have played either Altered Beast or Last Battle, then yeah, it's sort of like those. You'd think that this would have its advantages. That maybe if the SNES's processor only has to think about one playing, then it's got less grunt work to do. But when you play this game, you'll soon find that it is, well, the best word I can come up for it is janky. The game moves quite slow, suffers from a sort of stuttering slowdown at times, and just feels like it's always in low gear. There's no choice of fighter, you're simply the bloke it gives you. There's a punch button, a kick button, and this sort of flip forward button, and you jump by pressing up. Some of the kicks and punches you can do also involve pressing up or down, so although it feels like there's a decent range of moves, they're not quite as easy to use as they could be. Okay, so what do I actually like about this game? Well, it does have nice big sprites, which I think gives the game a good look. There's also quite a few different enemy sprites which should help keep the game from getting repetitive, but unfortunately it doesn't. The game's levels just seem to be really long and slow. The game also has pretty decent music and effects. To me, this game just feels like a giant vat of missed opportunities. When you're playing it, you just get this overwhelming sense that there's a nugget of goodness in there somewhere, that if they just tweaked a few things here and there, increased the speed, made a few alterations, that they could have had something worthwhile. But alas, I'm not here to review what could have been, I'm here to review what the game is actually like. I'd give this game 3 out of 10. I think if you picked this up and played it, then for the first 10 minutes you'd think, hey, this game ain't bad. And you'd probably think, if you'd played it after listening to my review, that I was being harsh on it, but give the game another 10 minutes and you'll start to see why I feel the way that I do. But if you really want to own this game, then the Japanese version pops up on eBay from time to time, cart only, for between £5 to £10. But I've never seen the altered American version being sold there. If you're willing to import it from America, then it seems to go for around £25 to £30 after postage. But it is in no way worth anything near this, and in fact I strongly recommend that you ignore this game. I'm one of those people who likes to look at bizarre, hardly talked about Japanese games because you're essentially looking for that nugget of gold which you didn't receive as a kid. That thing that the Japanese kept to themselves, that never made it to your shores, that missed legend. And you do find games like that, but you also find a lot of crap that didn't deserve to get ported around the world. Okay, that's Kerr9000 signing off saying keep on gaming.